Hi, I'm Elaine Gerber. I am an Associate Professor of Anthropology here at Montclair State and a Disability Studies Scholar. I'm here to talk about how to make things more accessible in the classroom or designing for all. And I just want to be clear at the outset that I have no formal training in universal design and learning. It's not an area of my scholarly expertise. Everything that I know comes from experiential learning from working at the American Foundation for the Blind for 5 years and serving for many years on the board of the Society for Disability Studies, putting on accessible events, and working and living in the disability community for the last 20 plus years. One of the things that I like about UDL, at least as I understand it, is that it doesn't stigmatize people and single them out for having particular learning needs. Students in general don't want to be outed in front of the classroom for anything that's personal, even if they are comfortable with their identity and their status. Besides, we're here on a college campus, so all of our students have learning needs. It's just that some are considered special because they're less common in the general public. But as educators, I think we want to reach all of our students, and UDL is one strategy where we can try to do that by increasing access for as many people as possible in our audiences. And more specifically, I use what I learned about different populations and the kind of specialized accommodations that they might need and apply them broadly across all my classes. Whether or not students are registered with the DRC or have a disability, these kinds of strategies applied broadly can help all of our students to learn. So maybe the best example of that is Captions. So prior to the pandemic, Captions was something that was really only available to deaf or hard of hearing students on campus, and now they're ubiquitous. Captions are everywhere because of Zoom. And they, of course, help people who are hard of hearing, but they also help students who are maybe sitting really far away and can't see in the screen, or students who are second language learners because it's multimodal, so they hear it and see it at the same time, as well as people who maybe have some executive function issues because they didn't sleep well the night before, or they have a mental health issue and just kind of zoned out for part of the way through, so they can keep track through the captions. So my first strategy is to use captions, always. Either open a Zoom call or enable the transcript, or to use Google Slides. It's super easy. You don't have to be techie. The AI isn't perfect, but hopefully it will continue to improve in its accuracy as we go. I enable them, and I tell the end user, I tell students that they have the option to control how big they are, how small they are, if they want to move them off the screen, that kind of thing. I also create a recording of every class session via Zoom. Just kind of open it, set it, and forget it. And I do this because there are obviously still a lot of students who are coming in and out of class with COVID and an accommodation to them. But it helps all of our students, including those who say, oh, I missed class, what I miss, and you can just point them to the recording. Another thing is that I would say is to plan for difference. Consider offering your content in different formats. So we put a lot of things in text and print, but also maybe consider having an audiobook or something like that. Because access is non-binary and contextual. Even the same person can have different access needs on any given day. So instead of thinking about access or as universal, or that our students are all the same, rather just to think about an audience of difference and plan for those differences. UC Berkeley English professor and recent MSU guest lecturer Georgina Klieg was talking about image description, audio description, and blindness. And in it, she kind of critiques this idea of the hypothetical blind person, that in our culture, we think all blind people see the same. That is nothing, just total darkness. And I'd like to extend her critique to actually thinking about the hypothetical sighted person, that we assume all of our students, sighted students in the classroom, see the same. And I think that's a dangerous assumption. I think that perception is so subjective. So we don't know how people are actually reading our images when we put pictures up on the screen. And so we should plan accordingly for that. In terms of images, the things I do is to provide alternate text for images. I verbally describe any images that are shown, and I select videos, if possible, that already have audio description tracks embedded in them. Doing these things obviously help blind and visually impaired students, but they help all of our students. And It's much easier to do than you might think. It doesn't have to be super techy. Even just an example from my field, if you're showing a picture, you're giving a lecture and you're showing a slide of an archaeological dig or something, you can say, here are people standing around a field, a field site, and you can see the different layers of earth are indicated through different colors. If one sentence, it's simple. But if you don't describe it, you don't know what the students are seeing in the image, let alone if they're seeing what you want them to see in it. And they might instead think, oh, look, people are hanging out having a good time at work. Or that, oh, good, I can do a job like this where I can be outside all day and not in an office. So I think it benefits our students and their learning if we effectively describe our images. Of course, it helps blind and visually impaired students, but it helps all of our students. So a simple narrative image description for everything shown in class, generating alt text for online or digital images, selecting video that has audio description tracks already embedded, and the use of high color contrast and large sans serif font for slides. These are low vision techniques, but they help low vision users, but they also help all of our students, again, including those who are sitting in the back, maybe can't see as well when you're from far away, or when you screen share on Zoom, the font gets super tiny and small. So these kinds of things help all of our students. There's some other things also that I do in the classroom to help make it more accessible. One is that I create notes in Google Slides, and I share them with all of the students from the outset of the semester, not just those who have permission for a, quote, note taker with the Disability Resource Center. Having notes and copies of your slides helps students to follow along in class. So again, it's multimodal. It helps people to learn because they're hearing it and seeing it at the same time. It helps second language learners. It helps people who have executive function problems for many reasons. It goes a long way, I think, to helping people. And in addition, I also try to do some other things that have come out of the disability community in class discussions. For example, I try to repeat what students say so that it can be heard by others and captured in recording. I ask students to say their name every time they speak. Again, this emerged from the deaf and hard of hearing community, so people could track speaker turns. So it helps those students, but it also helps all of our students because they get to know each other and learn each other by name and learn as much from each other in a community as just from the instructor. Pause regularly and pace myself a little bit different, but definitely include strategic pauses. So people who might be using an interpreter or who might be typing in comments to participate have time to do so, because those kinds of tasks often take longer than verbal speech. And I encourage people to stand, to walk around, to move their bodies however they see fit during my classes as well. I just tell students at the beginning of the term to just tell me what they need, what they think will help them learn, whether or not they are registered with the Disability Resource Center, and if it's something that I can do to help them, I will do it. I think listening to students about what helps them to learn is a good idea, in part because it shows responsiveness, and I think that goes a long way, probably much further than we imagine. Even if we can't make things perfectly accessible, it shows that we're trying and that we're committed to this, and people feel a sense of being welcomed and belonging in our classrooms.